Keyboard to the boardroom. This is the Business of Esports podcast.
The fastest growing entertainment phenomenon of this generation.
I, Prophet of Esports, joined today by my friend and co-host William Collis.
Yeah, we got the book of esports out. It's a big deal.
So everyone knows me as the Prophet, William as the Professor. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports after show live stream. I am Paul Dawalibi. I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts, Lindsay Poss, Victoria Taylor, William Collis, and Jeff Cohen. For those of you who are new to the after show live stream, welcome to the official after show of esports. What we do here is we cover everything that we didn't have time to get to on the podcast. All the news, all the gaming and esports topics and news of the week. We still dissect, we still analyze everything from a business point of view. We still look at everything happening in this industry. But it's all the stuff that we couldn't fit into the podcast, all those news articles that we just couldn't get to. We have a lot of them this week. If you guys are regulars here, welcome back. If you're new here, I encourage you guys to participate. This is what makes the live stream fun. Get in our faces, ask us questions, agree, disagree. You're always welcome. In the chat to comment. If you're lurking, that's okay too. We still love you. Tell your friends about the live stream, though. This is how we keep growing this. Guys, how's everyone doing? We have
doing great.
Amazing, because I have my new audio setup, so everyone who's listening to the the podcast can give me some love. And I think Jeff is doing amazing too, because he has a new audio setup as well.
Yeah, I got a new
last
mic,
week,
and I got some headphones, so hopefully I sound okay. I feel like I'm echoing in my own ears, but hopefully it sounds okay to you guys.
You sound great, honestly.
Okay.
After last week, we upgraded William and Jeff setups so that there are no complaints.
No more tin can
Lindsay and
Jeff.
Victoria, you guys always sounded good. I mean, there was no upgrade required.
Thanks, Paul. It's worth it.
Guys, we got so much to talk about this week. Before I dive in, let me just tease what we discussed on the podcast this week. Let me give a little bit of a teaser. Martin says, "Hey guys, Jeff, you sound great. Did anyone watch the Nintendo Direct?" I don't know. Did any of you guys watch the Nintendo Direct? I did not.
I did not. I saw, that they put out some release dates for all of games. It's the first Direct they've done in, I think, a couple of years. So pretty big event, but I didn't get to check it out.
William, you're the Nintendo guy. Did you?
I am. It's so funny because if you'd said that to me like 15 years ago, I'd be like, no, I don't like. I am a Nintendo guy. I love them. No, I did not watch this, and maybe that's a dereliction of my responsibilities to this podcast, but I think it more speaks to the fact that these like reveal press conferences just don't command the weight they used to in the industry. Right. Like, I think like these sorts of showcase moments for reveals, like you can get all the trailers online after, you don't have to go through all the waiting and the hoopla. Right. And fundamentally, like, I think as consumers right now, there's such a rich wealth of games. I think there's more and more mentality coming into being of, so show it, like, okay, let us play it and we'll decide for ourselves if it's good. Like, we're thrilled it's coming and that's great to know. But, we'll make the next decision when we can actually see how the game, feels in our hands, right?
Martin says it was underwhelming. Don't worry, but it did have 500,000 live viewers on YouTube. I mean, that's not an insignificant amount. Clearly, there's a lot of love for Nintendo. I'm just looking now. It says I just brought this up now. Hang on, let me share my screen here. It says Zelda, Splatoon 3, and everything else announced. It's a remastered version of Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which I don't know. That's not, to me, like, remasters are never like super exciting. Like, where's the next where's the Breath of the Wild sequel, right? That's the big question. And then Splatoon 3, okay. Like, guess so. But the only Mario game launched or announced was Mario Golf Super Rush. I don't know. That Martin, is that I agree with you that at first glance seems underwhelming. Like the rest are just not I guess the big kind of launches. Wow, Fall Guys coming, I guess. Well, a little late on that one. I don't know, a little underwhelming from the looks of it. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Lindsay, you're also a big Nintendo fan.
Yeah, I think it takes Nintendo a couple years to go through big releases. I mean, the new Mario games happen every 4 to 5 years, I think usually is their cycle. So I'm not necessarily surprised that with the success that they've been having lately and stuff that they're slowing down a little bit on what they announced.
I'll come out and say, like, I think it's sort of Nintendo's strategy recently has been dominated by, like, I think they've recognized that they've built such a perennial catalog of games, right? And they've done it with, candidly, and this is a huge advantage, an art style that translates so well that they can just have big and exciting business that's re-release dominated. Now, I know it's not what we want as fans, but I'll be honest with you, the new Super Mario World 3D was released on the Switch, right? I bought that. I'm playing it right now. I absolutely love it. It's a Wii U game. I don't care. I missed it on the Wii U. I'm thrilled to have it. And I think that speaks to the power of what Nintendo has figured out to do with vaulted content. Like, can you imagine if Call of Duty could do like Call of Duty last decade? And like, it's the 10-year-old Call of Duty re-release, and people are like, oh my gosh, Call of Duty from 10. Like, that would be incredible. Activision
William,
would love to do that.
I think they literally did that this past year, didn't they not? Like, wasn't this year's Call of Duty like a
Halo also did that.
Enhanced.
Right?
Halo does it. It's true. No, this was a reinvention. It wasn't like a straight port of.
That's true.
Game,
I think they did also do. They have done some remasters in the past as well, but yeah, it was more of a joke because they basically made Modern Warfare again.
Yeah, well, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, but it's true. Halo is a good example of this. Halo's like Halo Master Chief Collection. You loved it on the Xbox. Here it is again. Same game. Pistols OP. Right. And like it's actually a good. If you can do it, it's incredibly powerful because games have had a problem historically, which is, look, a movie can stay relevant for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, right? If it's a great movie, right? Games had this problem where the art assets, the quality, the mechanics used in the game aged very quickly. And so going back to a lot of old games, it's not the joy you remember. Some of them definitely, but others of them, it's like, oh, it had its time and place. And I think it's interesting that Nintendo as a publisher has managed to find ways to activate its vaulted content much better than other publishers to their distinct advantage. They don't release a lot of games, guys. They don't. They're talked of as like a major, force to the industry. But if you look at their annual catalog to anybody else, it's like dwarfite in size. And it's because they bulk it out with all of this, idle content, which is a better strategy, candidly. Like I would love to be able to sell the same box game for 15 years, and Nintendo's figured out how to do it.
I mean, I've been playing the same Mario games since they were released in the 90s. So
I know, but like, where's the Breath of the Wild sequel? I don't know. Remasters just don't excite me, right? Like, what's the point of doing a big splashy event if all you're going to announce is remasters, right? Like, to me, that there's the disconnect. Martin says the Fall Guys announcement was hilarious. Everyone was spamming dead game in chat. It is kind of unfortunate for Fall Guys because Fall Guys has become a little bit of the poster child for like the flash in the pan, hot game for the moment. And this is actually a good segue, guys, before we jump into some other stories in terms of what we covered on the podcast. And one of the things William and I did talk about on the podcast was Valheim, and Valheim's sort of, huge success over the last 13 days. They've sold 2 million copies, sort of came out of nowhere. And it's a little bit of this Fall Guys like effect with this, incredibly popular game that seems to come out of nowhere. And we saw this over most of 2020 with Phasmophobia and Fall Guys and Among Us and, all these games that have sort of come out of nowhere and achieved great success very quickly. And we talk about that and sort of the implications for the big publishers and things like that. Really good conversation on the business side of these sort of instant hits or instant successes. The other thing that we talked about, I'll just bring it up. I'll share my screen here. is we talked about the International Olympic Committee not wanting to do esports in the Olympics. In other words, not wanting to do like League of Legends or Call of Duty, but being okay with what they call virtual sports. In other words, digital versions of traditional sports. So like Madden and NBA 2K are acceptable, but not League of Legends or Call of Duty, which we had a good conversation on that. And then finally, we did 3 stories on initiatives in the Middle East, in the MENA region around gaming, what they're calling a new creative visa in Abu Dhabi, which covers esports, the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund spending $3.3 billion on video game stocks, and the Crown Prince being really sort of behind this, and an article from ZDNet talking about the Middle East's growing love for esports. So we really spent quite a bit of time talking about the boom, call it, in gaming in the MENA region and their appetite for esports. I think it's something a lot of people are just not paying enough attention to, because I think there are a lot of interesting things happening over there. So that's the podcast to expect tomorrow. Martin says, what a strange hill for the Olympics to die on. That is, I mean, Martin, I don't think you could have said it any better. Here's a question for you guys, because I asked it on the podcast. I asked William, but I'm curious what the rest of you think. Did anyone miss the Olympics in 2020? Like, was anyone upset that it never happened? Be honest.
I mean, no, but it's always fun. Like, nobody, I'm not someone who looks forward to the Olympics, but like, you always watch it and you get really into those random sports. It's like for that one day you become like the expert in curling and you're like, oh yeah, no, he's definitely doing it wrong. Like he should be like going, counterclockwise. You know what I mean? Like you just get really into it. I'm
always a curling fan. Let's be clear. So yeah, my curling fandom is not the bandwagon variety.
Isn't that the national sport in Canada? Or
I was just going to say it's
Jeff,
Canadian roots.
That's true.
You should know this of all people.
That's true. But no, I didn't miss the Olympics not being around.
Victoria, did you miss them?
I was just going to say, I'm the biggest sports fan, and I honestly did not miss the Olympics. And I hate to say that because I love watching them. And if I miss something, like one of the big competitions, I'll be like, shit, I missed it. And I feel like I missed out huge. But I think it's just the fear of missing out. And it's like what I ought to be watching because everyone's watching it. And there's just so much attention on it. It's like just, opening up the fridge and whatever's there. Same thing. Like a movie's on TV versus finding one on Netflix. It's just on. So it's just easy to kick back and watch hours and hours of it. But you're right. I didn't lead up to the weeks counting down the days. I mean, unless I was going to go to Tokyo, that'd be different. But no, it just passed by. I didn't even notice.
I mean, we are ignoring the fact that 2020 was an extremely strange year and we were amidst a pandemic and there was a billion things going on. So like the Olympics were not at top of mind for the thousands and hundreds of thousands of things that got canceled.
Okay, but be honest, and I'll ask this to everyone watching too. Okay, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Lindsay. If we said League of Legends Worlds was canceled, right, and would not happen this year, do you think you would get more of an outcry from fans than the Olympics being canceled?
Yeah, because it's more active fan base. I mean, I'm not discrediting any of the answers.
Like the Olympics has the same demographic problem that the NFL has, right? And for anyone who watched the podcast last week, we went over a lot of data on like demographics of esports fans versus traditional sports fans. Like, Lindsay, don't you think that the Olympics has a similar aging audience problem relative to esports?
Relative to esports, yes. And I think that it's foolish of them to not include League of Legends.
Or anything. Like, what a weird
anything, yeah, truly.
Like, it's anyway. So Martin says, I forgot the Olympics was supposed to be on.
There was a lot going on. Nobody needed the Olympics.
Okay.
I also love. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Victoria. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I love how the Olympics said like they're just continuing with that. Nope, we're not going to include esports. Like they're adamant about it. But then there's like in all the articles I read, it was like, but we still want to maintain a strong relationship with the esports community. It's like, well, yeah, of course you do. Of course you don't want to lose that, right? But you're not going to serve them and put the competitions in. You're just going to want to strengthen your relationships with the community.
It feels like lip service, no?
Oh yeah.
100%.
Like, here's something that doesn't seem like lip service, and it's the first story I wanted to talk about because I think it's huge, and I didn't see a lot of play on this. This was from firstpost.com, and the headline here was Huawei is reportedly working on a gaming console similar to PlayStation, Xbox, and new gaming laptops. So Huawei, best known for making phones, Chinese company, banned from the United States because supposedly their phones were spying on U.S. citizens. Now wants to build a console. I'm curious if you guys think this has any legs. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
I mean,
on
am I going to have to be the one who goes on the rant here? No legs, 0% chance. We just went through this with Stadia.
Phones.
Yeah, that's spy on you that you can't even use here in the US. But we just went through this with Stadia with Google, right? We went through it with Amazon, with Luna, which I guess still exists, but is, effectively on its way to death, just like Stadia probably. You can't launch a new console without marquee exclusives. Huawei doesn't make games. They're not going to spend the money probably to, have exclusives. This is dead on arrival if it ever arrives.
Market. Does anyone think for Asia specifically, or the China? Let me even be more specific. For the Chinese market specifically, does this have legs? Lindsay?
I would need to know more about how Huawei phones sell and what their popularity is in China. But because just the sheer size of the gaming market is bigger, like just literally, their country is much bigger. There's literally just more people there to buy things. It could. I specifically don't know enough about their purchasing power interests, but it could.
Would it be on an exclusive network? Or say, like, if it was just popular somewhere in Asia, would they be able to play other consoles or other laptops or PCs?
So it sounds like this is definitely not like this is a proprietary platform. What they're saying is Huawei had launched something called Game Center last year, which is something that they built on top of their mobile operating system, and that maybe that this might be connected to that in some way, but it sounds like they want to build an actual piece of hardware, right? That is running proprietary software, etc. My view on this is the software is where this falls apart because they can't really use Android legally anymore, and their sort of hacked version of Android has sort of fallen flat, even in China. I don't know how they make this work, right? Unless it's just such a generic piece of hardware that you can run like PC games on it. William, you're looking confused.
Yeah, in which case it's just like the Steam console, which didn't go anywhere, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And if Steam can't launch a console, right, then you sort of have a problem because you think if anybody could be a credible competitor in the console market today, it would be like Valve, right? Like they already have the largest game distribution platform to leverage it. So it's strange. Yeah, it is. It's Jeff's point, though. It's exactly right. Is the reason why Valve couldn't make it work was there were no exclusives. So there was no reason to convert cross-platform. I actually think the console market could be open for more competition, but it starts with not what your hardware is or what your hardware strategy is, but what is your content strategy? Because otherwise these are boxes, right? They don't do anything unless the stuff that runs in the box is good. So,
but do you guys not see a world where China says we won't allow Microsoft and Sony to sell their consoles in China. You have to buy the Huawei one.
Well, so I was about to jump in. You brought up a good point with China because, they are protectionist. Consoles have never really taken off in China. There's a little bit of a gray market, but it's fairly small. The Switch is kind of just entering again, at a small scale. So, if you could make that argument to me that if the government wants to push this and they kind of make this the console you're allowed to buy, and then Huawei goes to Microsoft and Sony and says, hey, the only way you're going to get your games / goes to every publisher and says, oh, you want to get your games in China? The only way to do it is on our piece of hardware. That might work. But guess what that would be? Exclusive content. So it goes down. Unless they have exclusive content, they got no chance. So until we see something about that piece, this is not going to work.
And there'd likely be significant regulatory hurdles in that conversation, right? I don't think Microsoft and Sony would just be able to do deals willy-nilly with Huawei for anything, like not just hardware, but content too, I think would be a huge hurdle. Guys, let's move on. Let's talk about we can talk about, actually there was another EA story. There was an interesting EA story this week, which I wanted to bring up here. Hang on, I got to find it. Talking about their view on, actually, no, before we get to that, I know William wanted to talk about this. Before we get to that, this one's an interesting one because it's a recurring theme on this live stream and this podcast. This is from the New Indian Express. Netflix announces new anime series based on video game franchise Dota. So it's pretty much official. An 8-episode series is going to be released on March 25th on Netflix based on the Dota universe. It's going to be anime. And, Valve is obviously behind this. Is this, again, we've covered this sort of Disney-fication of, game publishers. Valve, who I would argue is maybe the biggest sleeper of all publishers, seems to be moving first here from an entertainment perspective and moving fastest.
Well, pushback. I mean, there was Castlevania on Netflix, right? Previously, that I think has done well. Yeah. There's a Castlevania anime.
Did you watch it?
It has like 2 seasons. Yeah,
okay.
On Netflix.
Is it good?
I don't know. I mean, I watched some clips of it. I was like, I definitely think I would have liked this when I was younger.
Okay.
No, I mean, maybe we should ask our viewers, is it good? Has anyone seen it? But it's like, it seems clear to me that Netflix has figured out that there's a viewership base that are gamers and wants to and also likes anime. And there's probably a strong overlap there. And they want to see their games that they like made into anime on Netflix. And what shocks me here is, one, like Dota is the most, and I'm sorry, Dota is a brilliant game, but as an IP, guys,
yeah,
characters are called things like acts. There is no story there. I mean, maybe that's part of the appeal, is it's a blank slate that you can have, a talented writer project something on, but it's a little like, look, I'm going to say it. This is why I want to talk about it. If Dota gets a game adaptation, a Netflix adaptation, Nintendo, where are you? Like, if Dota deserves it, like, I'm sorry, the Mario movie should sweep the Academy Awards and win Best Picture, because that's the, and I'm not trying to knock Dota as an IP or as a game, but as a wealth of characters and storytelling, it's not, right. It's a vehicle for simulating incredibly detailed, incredibly high skill cap MOBA battles, and it's amazing at that. But like, it's not Proust, I
mean, William, your point is a good one, right? Dota is just dense, right? Like there's not a lot of lore. It's not light. There's no like simple story or themes that people can latch onto. It really is the joke is, to play Dota, you literally need a PhD, right? To play it at a high level, the complexity of the game. You would have expected a Zelda anime before a Dota one, you would think. I mean, Lindsay, is this do you agree with this? Like, do you think Dota might be so inaccessible to the masses that this actually fails?
That is a possibility. As someone who's, definitely more on the casual side, I know very little about Dota. I've watched it at a tournament exactly once and never streamed it and never read about it and don't care about it at all. Whereas obviously Zelda is much more familiar. We'll see though, because when it comes to the people who actually spend time watching cartoons, I fall into that category. So Castlevania was something that was really interesting to me. So it's kind of, I don't know.
For the fact you're saying the fact that it's anime, the fact that it's anime, you think makes it accessible to the masses, regardless of the underlying source material or IP.
Yes, and there's obviously a bunch of IP to work with, so it can go in a lot of directions, and if they do it well, then it can be a really compelling story to watch that might draw people in. But there's also plenty of opportunity to do this poorly. So
I would sort of push back that they're even going after a mass audience. I mean, if you look at just what Netflix is sort of strategy is, and kind of any subscription sort of content business model, you're not necessarily, every piece of content you put out isn't necessarily meant for a mass audience. Like, Netflix is famous for making like horrible Adam Sandler movies that 80% of people might not like, but they know that 20% of their audience absolutely loves Adam Sandler. So they eat those up, even though they get like single digits on Tomatoes. They just care. So they might be making this piece of content for that sliver of people who are anime fans or Dota fans, and they might love it, but someone like me or my wife might have no interest in it. And that, it doesn't need to blow up and be like Witcher like kind of mainstream for this to be successful for Netflix.
Greg says, why is Riot not doing a Valorant show? Actually, before we get to that, Bilal says, what do you think of Valheim? Bilal, we talked a little bit about at the beginning of the live stream, and I will say, if you tune into the podcast tomorrow, I'm happy to talk about it at the end of today's live stream when we talk about what are we playing now. But William and I spend a lot of time on Valheim. I will say the short of it is I'm a huge fan of the game. I don't know why Activision Blizzard or EA or any of the huge publishers aren't like buying up this development team, because what they've made, I think, is really pretty special. It's a really, really, really great game. There's a lot of lore in Dota. Bilal, I'm not disagreeing. I think there are other games that are maybe more lore rich that have not crossed that chasm into TV or movies. Or at least maybe lore rich is not the right criteria. And maybe you guys have thoughts on this, but it's more like there needs to be a storyline associated with the game that can be transported or at least explored in a movie or TV sort of format. And I think that's tougher with Dota than maybe with other games. Greg says, why is Riot not doing a Valorant Netflix show? Greg, did you listen to the podcast we did with Matt Archambault from Riot? I know, like, it's clear that I think he doesn't say it. He tiptoes around it in the podcast if you listen to it, but I think they're definitely looking at this. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something from Riot.
So it would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, no question it'd be cool. And clearly there's a much larger fan base for a League of Legends, show than for a Dota show even. But Martin says,
Valorant.
What's that?
Even Valorant.
Or Valorant, right? Valorant, I don't think they fully fleshed out all the Valorant lore yet, though, right? Like, I don't think the storylines, but maybe that's the opportunity for the movie or the show, right? To explore those side things. Martin says, I would have rather Valve gave them the Half-Life IP for a show instead. Who here would like to see like a Counter-Strike style or Half-Life style or inspired like TV show? That might be interesting.
I'd probably watch it. I think a Half-Life show would be absolutely terrifying. They could do a lot with it.
They could, right? Like live action Half-Life Netflix series.
It's got a pretty good storyline already.
It's just I'm surprised all of this came from Valve, to be honest, because Valve always seems to be asleep despite all their success. They're not like the first movers. They're not, you rarely see big moves or big announcements.
The website from 1997 isn't just on the ball.
Steam still looks like it looked like, 15 years ago.
No wonder why their console failed.
All right, guys, let's talk about something else here. So we talked about Netflix. I'm trying to find where I put this EA story.
Paul, you can't find it in your 1,300 tabs. I'm shocked.
Let's talk about this one while I look for that. This is my organized one. This is only like 50 tabs. Let's talk about PC hardware, because this is another sort of recurring theme. But I just love this headline. It's from PCGamer.com. PC gamers spent 4.5 billion, equivalent to the defense budget of Denmark, on kit last year. As a whole, PC gamers in the US dropped $4.5 billion on new hardware and accessories in 2020, 62% more than in 2019. This is not consoles, right? This is just PC gaming. So this is unaffected by the console cycles. This is really just pure PC gaming. Anyone know why in this context people keep saying PC gaming's dead? Why are there still doubters when you see hardware, which is the heart of PC gaming, continue to beat expectations, see huge growth? Victoria, let me put you on the spot here. Why are there doubters still on the PC gaming side? Mobile now gets all the accolades, all the attention. It's all the hotness of the day, you know?
I don't have a good answer for you. I'm not a PC gamer. Sorry, I'm console. So I'm biased here. I'm all about, it's more entry level. It's accessibility reasons, but I mean, I don't know. That also, like, there's so many new gamers each day who are investing in their setups and getting into PC. So I don't really understand this. I don't like when I say this, I mean your point that it's dying.
But so, like, do you think, William, go ahead. You wanted to say something. Sorry.
Well, no, it's just, I think this is sort of two things. One is it's higher cost, right? Like, let's be honest, right? Like, it's, if you want to get into gaming at a very accessible price point, you do a phone. That's your first step. And if you're going to get, more serious, you do a console. That's why consoles are very popular, right? So I think in general, any industry that's high, that is any business that's higher priced and looks like it has a cheaper substitute seems vulnerable, right? Like, and so I think a lot of people who are maybe a little less sophisticated on the market look at it and like, well, you can play Call of Duty on a $400 Xbox or a $2,000 gaming PC. I see where that's going. Those gaming PCs aren't going to be around for long, right? So that's part of it. I think the other part is just it's sensationalist. Like, and it's not, it's also the flip side, by the way. We see articles that say consoles are dead. Like, they're never going to come again. This is the last console cycle. So it's just, our industry has always felt a little, and if you think about it abstractly, right? Like, it sort of does feel like we should have picked one or the other, right? You know what I mean? Like, we should have been like, oh yeah, consoles are affordable. They have very good performance. Maybe we'll do an Xbox S and an Xbox S Prime or something. But like, it sort of does feel like intuitively we should have consolidated on one form factor rather than what's happened, which is this like whole smorgasbord of options for how you play. But the reality is that's how the industry works. It's how the price differentiation curve works. And it's going to continue to be that way. I don't see any reason to think that the norm that is held for 25 years will be in any way different for the next 25 years, barring some sort of massive technological shift, which I don't think VR, any of the things we know are coming, are that disruptive shift.
Well, it's also silly to me that we're not looking at who currently has spending power and what their interests are. I mean, you guys went over this pretty extensively with Ben on the podcast, but people aged 18 to 34 who grew up gaming are now still gaming and only becoming more interested in gaming. So there's no reason to think that any specific part of that market is going to fail for one reason or another. As William said, there's no reason to think that this is the last console cycle. There's no reason to think that PCs are going anywhere. The reality is there's a large consumer spending base that is interested in this thing. Their interest is growing and they have money. So
it's just the numbers are still shocking, Lindsay, right? Like, we're not talking about hardware growing at 10% or 15%. Like 62% year over year growth is massive, right?
Hey,
like,
there was a lot of special things that happened.
Do you think any of that was due to people buying stuff to work from home? Like, obviously gaming is booming, so clearly there's growth, massive growth. But I just wonder if, like, if I bought a camera or a mouse to work from home, like, would that kind of get lumped in to this PC gaming piece? I mean, or even a computer for that matter. A lot of people upgrade, right?
But like, you don't need an RTX 3080 to like do Zoom calls, right? Like, this would be a little overkill. You do need it, Jeff.
I need a lot.
Jeff needs help.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
This is funny though, because Jeff, I was about to say, yeah, that was the point I was going to make, but then you took it a different direction that I was going to. So when you say that now people are working from home, so originally when we're thinking about, when we were talking about is PC gaming dying? Well, I mean, I grew up a PC gamer, right? Because we had our den, office, whatever you guys call it, and that was the house computer. And then next thing you know, I'm putting like graphics cards on my Christmas list when I'm like 8 or 9 years old, right? I was a pretty cool kid. So that's what it was. But then also technology improved and laptops became so sleek, so easy, and the whole on-the-go appeal was there. So no longer did I need a stationary setup for a heavy desktop. And that's where the divide was. There was people who valued PC gaming enough who still wanted that stationary setup because they valued the technology and the games that they could play and all that would come along with that. And then there's people who are like, well, I have a laptop. I can do work on my couch, carry it to bed to watch Netflix. And a console just made sense. No longer did I need an office or a den or an actual setup to duplicate the laptop function that I already had. However, when Jeff said, maybe because of, the pandemic and working from home, I'm saying, okay, well, people are going back to a stationary setup of a desktop. I have a desk and a chair now. Maybe I'll go get a nice desktop computer. I've already look at my headset. I'm going to get a new chair from IKEA. I'm going to get some nice peripherals. Now I'm thinking about making those investments again because no longer am I living that on-the-go lifestyle. That's me.
Look, I actually agree with you, right? Like in some ways, and to both of your points, maybe this is part of the equation, right? We've gone back to the big, powerful desktop being desirable, not just for gaming, but also for work. I would love to convince some of you guys in this room that the big, powerful desktop is the way to go. But
if you buy me a big, powerful desktop, I will use it. I promise. That's
the amount of crappy laptops I've been through. Done with them.
I also need you to come set it up for me.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If you buy Jeff a desktop, prepare to be on call 24/7.
Martin says Henry Cavill contributed to at least 5% of that growth. Martin, if Henry Cavill contributed 5%, I was at least 15. Greg says, why not work from home and do gaming? Greg, I have a funny feeling because I see it. So I see it in some of the Discord servers I'm in. And these are younger kids, I will call them, like guys in their 20s who are working from home. They're programmers, mostly software developers. But I see them logging in at like 2:00 to go play League of Legends, right? And I'm like, if I'm your employer, I'm not so sure about this, working from home and gaming at the same time. But I think a lot of people are. Greg says the $4.5 billion includes video cards, processors, headsets, monitors, keyboards, and games. Yeah. And Greg, we could argue that some of those do double duty for, work from home. But look, you can get away with a, $50 Logitech webcam. You don't need like the $1,000 DSLR. You don't need the 16-core processor and the RTX 3080, right, to do Zoom calls. But I never cease to be amazed at the growth of the hardware segment. And again, I think people still are not paying enough attention there. I finally found my EA article, guys. I know I did find it. It's in here. This one, I can't wait to hear Jeff's thoughts on this. This is EA. This is Todd Citron from EA, okay? And it was from protocol.com. And the headline here is, with esports, control isn't everything, okay? And let me just summarize quickly what the article basically says. So Todd Citron, who's head of EA's competitive gaming entertainment unit, okay? So he's in charge of all their esports stuff. He basically is saying that trying to exert too much control or having too much control, like controlling as a publisher, controlling the league, controlling the tournaments, controlling the brands, right? Having that much control, he believes, is the wrong move. And EA has taken a very different approach. It feels a little bit to me, it's not specific, it's not like he doesn't say this explicitly in this article. He's not quoted. I'm saying if I'm reading between the lines, he's taking a shot at Activision Blizzard. Okay. And I'll show you where. He says, if you've got partners, you've got to keep them happy. A little bit of a shot at Activision Blizzard. And he says, it's foolhardy to believe that something can become truly mainstream with one entity. He says the NFL, and he says, points to traditional sports as an example. The NFL and Premier League's popularity, he said, did not come from a single entity creating something and pushing something. I think this is a direct shot at Activision Blizzard. Jeff, do you see it in a different way? Or do you agree with Todd here?
Well, one, I don't necessarily agree with him. I do think, for big leagues, you do want more publisher control for the league's benefit, and probably for the whole ecosystem. We've talked, many times about how Activision went sort of down the wrong path and what's kind of gone wrong there. But I don't think his premise is necessarily. I think his premise is kind of flawed in terms of, the fact that having it controlled by the publisher has to necessarily be a bad thing. I mean, look at Riot and what they've done and how successful that has been versus Valve and what they've kind of failed to do and how, it's been successful as well. But there are obviously some flaws in that approach. And to your initial point, just around, was this a shot at Activision? I think you're 100% right. There's definitely some not even friendly, right? There's rivalry between those two companies. They compete for talent. There's been, lawsuits in the past. The whole Respawn team basically came from Activision. So there's, a healthy competition. They're, two of the biggest publishers here in the US, in the West. They compete for investors. They compete for, talent. They compete for, players of their actual games. So, yeah, I mean, I think this was a pretty not even veiled kind of shot at Activision. At Activision.
He actually mentions in this article specifically Valve, where he feels Valve has done more like EA. In other words, they've not controlled Counter-Strike. They've allowed multiple different leagues to pop up or to hold Counter-Strike tournaments, right? Like that Valve has not exerted the kind of control that he thinks causes leagues to fail. He says, again, let me just add here. He says, EA licenses out its games for other leagues to run. He says in FIFA, between 25 and 30 football leagues run their own esports program. And he feels this is one of their keys to success. And he literally says it's a fool's errand to believe that any company can drive everything themselves.
But to push back on that, would any of us call FIFA like a particularly good esport relative to its player base and its, the popularity of soccer? I mean, Rocket League is probably a more popular esport, and it's soccer with cars. So if I were the guy running FIFA esports, I don't know if I would be pounding my chest about how great I am at doing esports. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could also push back and just say, FIFA's probably doing better as an esport than Overwatch League, right? Maybe this is the comparison he's making in his head. Lindsay, I don't know. Where do you fall on this? Because he's taken a clear stance here, right? He says you can't control everything. And it's a clear shot. I think we all agree at Activision Blizzard, who controls everything. I'm curious where you are on this spectrum of how much control is sort of the sweet spot in terms of having a successful league.
I mean, I think it's silly to assume that some publishers can control more and it be successful, and some publishers can control less and it can be successful. I think it totally depends on what the publisher wants to do and how they want to push it out. But at the end of the day, they have to do what works for them. I don't think that Overwatch League is working very well for Activision, but I don't know that has to do with how much control Activision asserts over it. There's a whole range of factors that affect what makes a league successful and what doesn't, and taking such a hard stance on this is just silly to me.
So you don't think this is not this, like having a discussion around control as a defining sort of criteria in terms of success or fail of a league or an esport? You think this is this is foolhardy in and of itself to sort of think of control.
Well, because different things are going to work for different games, completely dependent upon the player base, what people want to see, who's in charge of the management. If you can outsource it and it works, then outsource it because it works. If you can do it in-house and it's better and you make more money, then do it in-house and it's better and it makes more money. It's just, I don't think that there's a clearly defined model. I do think that more control, you do run the risk of drawing more attention of regulators, depending on if you go too far with how much you're controlling. But if they can stay out, if Activision Blizzard can stay out of that and find a way to make money and be successful, then they can do that. It's great that this works for EA, and there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, this works really well for EA and it works really well for Valve. But to try to say it has to be like this everywhere is just silly to me, because it doesn't. There's nothing that says that you have to outsource it or let other people do it.
Victoria and William, before I come to you guys, I just want to read one more quote from this article is like treasure trove of like attacks on Activision Blizzard. He says specifically, Citron thinks you have to take it slow. And then they quote him. I think what ends up happening with maybe some others is they've gone from we introduced a game to boom, we have a franchise league. That is a gigantic jump. And it's forgetting that you have to take the viewers, the fans, and you have to make them come along in the process. Again, just a real shot at Activision Blizzard. William, Victoria, I'm curious, same question to you guys. Where do you fall on this spectrum here? Because Todd has taken a pretty hard line.
Well, just to jump out, I was kind of biding my time on this to hear what other people wanted to say. I think you have to have direct management of these things to some extent, right? Like, I just think like if you want it to get done, you need to at least have a very extensive plan for outsourcing and third-party partnership networks, or you need to have the power of fiat control from the top down. I don't, one or the other can work, right? Like, I don't think, like, I could see a very successful AAA publisher-driven esports strategy that had no ownership, right? Like, no ownership. And I'll give you a good example of that right now. Riot isn't really choosing to own their Valorant events right now. And they're still getting a ton of, because it's part of a plan. Now, we all know that Riot's gonna own them at some point, right? But like, it's part of a plan that they laid out and they are executing on a strategy. But this whole not doing an owned and operated league is not an excuse for not doing anything, right? It's not like, oh, you have two options, either owned and operated or laissez-faire, let it sit. And I think what I'm really saying is the ecosystem has to be managed. There have to be people managing it for success and growth and integrity, right? And if you aren't doing that as the publisher of your title, you won't have an esports success. Plain and simple, right?
I mean, William, you're kind of agreeing with Todd here, though. And your Valorant example, in my opinion, is like in total agreement with Todd, which is, we don't go from game to franchise league in one breath, right? We let it build, we put it out there, we let people hold tournaments, we don't exert massive amounts of control, we let it grow organically, right? You bring the viewers, the fans with you as part of the process. Like, I think what he's saying, you're agreeing with, especially with the Valorant example. And you could argue Riot did that, although they exert control today. Riot did that in the beginning with League 2.
Yeah, you could. My point, and I think it's a little different than this, is I'm saying there are multiple strategies to having a successful esports play today, right? You can do it all in-house, you can outsource it, you can have some sort of hybridization. What is not acceptable is using the excuse of not wanting to have an in-house league, right, as a get out of jail free card for not having an esports strategy or plan to execute, right? And it's fine if you use third-party events and structures as a bridge to build into something. It's fine if you incorporate that into a hybrid model. I think a lot of those things can work. But I think what is sort of rubbing you the wrong way about these comments, right, Paul? And
I love these comments.
What? You like them, or?
Anyone critical of things like Overwatch League to me are good people.
Well,
this is like
either way. I think what might rub people some way the wrong way of these comments is it's like, yeah, but like what, like, okay, but like what's the alternative for this? Because as critical as you can be of Activision Blizzard, at least they did it at least they did do a
Yeah,
top-down managed structure, and they took a big risk, and I still think that should be applauded, you know?
I don't know. I mean, we're setting a low bar if just doing something is like good enough to applaud them, right? Like
I mean,
Activision
I think-
Blizzard could have done it a lot better, and I think Todd's criticisms, because I'm going with the assumption he's directing them at Activision Blizzard, I think are for the most part correct. They jumped. They have too much control. And look, I will read just the final quote here before anyone else who wants to comment on this jumps in. He says, people who were in esports to flip their team in 3 years for a ton of money, he thinks are now realizing that this is a long-term investment. He says, I think that reality is going to shake out a lot of companies and a lot of people, and what will be left will be something stronger. And again, I think it's a shot at owners who bought into Overwatch League teams, who were told, this is going to be a $300 million, team in 5 years. And, the growth is going to go like this. And, I think this is what a lot of those early owners into the Activision Blizzard leagues bought into. And I think this is what he's being critical of. Again, it's not directly saying that, but it feels like that. Jeff, you were going to say something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he, on that last point, I think he's absolutely right. With some of these owners bought in, didn't really know what they were buying in, kind of got wined and dined by Bobby, and maybe some of them own professional sports teams and were kind of just reading the tea leaves or trying to cannibalize themselves, and did really think this was going to be a little bit of a quicker path. And I hope that, I echo sentiment about what's going to be left down the line. Hopefully it's a stronger, kind of better ecosystem. So I think that's a really positive note there. The joke that I was going to make before was, I was going to say, I think we can all agree the Nintendo method for esports is the best, where you control it, but you don't actually do anything. And anyone who tries to run tournaments, you shut them down. That's the model we should all follow.
Hugely successful esports model.
Yeah.
Victoria, I have one more quote from this. I want your opinion on this. He says, you have to create conditions where people have their own self-interest and they have an ability to make a business out of it. Again, taking aim at owners, I think, who bought into like Overwatch League franchises. Curious if you agree there.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of good points. I think, to William's point, I think that there's no one size fits all strategy here. Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence with that.
I just think he takes one case. No matter what model you choose, you have to have good vision, strong management, and a plan on how you're going to actually execute. I think that Overwatch League failed in a lot of those categories. But I don't think that means that you can extrapolate and say, all top-down leagues ever will fail. It's just way too early to assume that because this one that was not well thought out and not very well managed did not do well, that all of them are going to not do well.
I think, Lindsay, that's a fair statement. I think if I was a betting man, though, my money would be on less publisher control leading to better leagues and more sustainable leagues long term. That I truly believe that, and again, I'll quote one more Todd thing. He says, if the ecosystem, and I've said these words like almost exactly. He says, if the ecosystem, I feel like he plagiarized some piece of content.
Hey, let's go, get it on.
He says, if the ecosystem isn't financially viable for everyone involved, be that teams, league operators, sponsors, or media partners, then some of those partners are going to bail, right? And I think when the publishers exert too much control, it's often driven by short-term greed, and eventually the partners bail because there's not enough incentive for them. There's not enough reason for them to continue to be interested, and these things fall apart. And I truly believe the Valorant model, in some ways the EA model, although they haven't really had that much success on the esports front, long term will be the successful model, not the Activision Blizzard model, frankly.
But Paul, couldn't you make an argument that by having the publisher controlling, it's more sustainable, where if you're a partner like a network or something like that, you're willing to buy in because you know that they're not going to come out with like an Overwatch 2 that kills Overwatch 1. Like, I know that's a terrible example because it's using Activision, which is the opposite. But, for example, if you create a whole league around Rocket League that's controlled externally, and then they create, Rocket League with, instead of, playing soccer, they're playing football or something, it just completely changes the game. Like, wouldn't you, as the partner, like you kind of might be destroying your own, like you don't have control.
No,
that makes some
to
sense.
me, the owners need more control in the equation, right? This is where these leagues, I think, are long-term successful and sustainable. And again, you're starting to see Activision Blizzard backpedal on things because I think they're realizing this too. And I talked about this in my esports minute this week, was the Fanatics deal. So, there were Activision Blizzard had signed this sort of all-encompassing deal with Fanatics to produce all the merchandise for Overwatch League, right? And the teams couldn't produce their own. Were locked out. So if you were an owner of an Overwatch League team and you wanted to make your own cool jerseys, you couldn't. Fanatics was the partner, and Activision Blizzard said you have to use Fanatics. Like, to me, you could argue, okay, yes, it simplifies things for the owners, but like that level of control where you don't let owners to build their own businesses, it's a recipe for long-term failure, because Activision Blizzard one entity will never make all the right decisions. Whereas if you leave power in the hands of 30 owners, inevitably, I think they will make better decisions long-term for the sustainability of their teams and the league. And this is why it works in traditional sports, right? There's no owner of football that says, we can only do this way, and you guys can't sell this, and you can't brand this, and right, like even in Call of Duty League, Activision Blizzard decides what a team can be named or not, right? They have the final say. It's just
who do you think broke that deal? Sorry to cut you off. I'm curious. So you think Activision? You think the owners actually? You think Activision was the one who said we're out, or you think Fnatic, because it just the Overwatch League isn't that popular, they decided to back away from the contract? Like who do you think initiated this split in your mind?
I think pressure
or
from
anyone
the owners
can answer that,
because I know of at least half a dozen owners that I've talked to who were extremely unhappy with the level of control exerted by Activision Blizzard, who were extremely unhappy with the economic split with Activision Blizzard, right? All things related to level of control. And I think that ownership pressure eventually over time got Activision Blizzard to stand up and say, okay, this league's failing. Let's do something to appease the owners at least, right? So they don't bail, and start making some changes. Now, firing Fanatics to me is, change, sure, right? Kudos to them. You did a good thing, but like, it's not going to save Overwatch League. And in fact, I tweeted about it like a month ago. I said, your league has a problem when your jerseys are always 70% off. Like every 2 days, I would get an email from Fanatics, 70% off Overwatch League, right? So it's just, it never made sense. This level of control, I just think doesn't work, just doesn't. And I think history will prove that out. Martin says, Jeff, you're breaking my heart. Martin, why is Jeff breaking your heart? I assume.
I think that was about the Nintendo. That was about the Nintendo joke, I think.
Lewis says, the problem right now is owner of teams think a lot of big sports teams that thought their sports teams will carry them in esports, which don't work. Example, Boston Uprising. Lewis, you're right. I mean, the trend, a lot of just because you have success as a sports team doesn't mean you'll have success as an esports team. But I think the Boston Uprising would have been more successful had Blizzard not had them on such a short leash. Let's put it that way, because I think there are smart people at the Boston Uprising who could have done better with their business if Activision Blizzard was not suffocating them. Martin says Nintendo are like the greedy kid who won't let anyone else play with their toys and doesn't even use them. It's true. Greg says the Fanatics deal forced people like Anbox to focus on their own corporate brand and identity. Greg, you bring up something good. Did any of you guys ever buy any Anbox merch? Like, were any of you ever excited about that? You know who I'm talking about, right? This is the ownership group of the New York Excelsior and the New York Subliners. I never know how to pronounce their team name. But this, that was just, in some ways, I mean, the management at Anbox is not good, but in some ways, this hand was forced by Activision Blizzard, which I think Greg's point is a good one, where because they can't make their own jerseys. They have to go start this other brand that has no relevance. Lewis says, no, I live in New York City. Yeah, Lewis, and even you were not interested.
Was Ambox the one that was selling those jerseys? It was like cut up of all the other jerseys?
Yes, the recycled ones.
Upcycled. They were upcycled, guys.
Upcycled.
No, I did not buy anything from Ambox.
Okay. Let's move on here. Let's talk about let's pick something a bit more light because that was kind of heavy. I want to talk about pigs, guys, okay? Any hot dog fans before we move on?
I like live pigs a lot.
Okay, but what about hot dogs?
No, give me a
they're great.
truffle over a hot dog any day.
Jeff, no, hot dogs are great. Victoria,
I mean,
are you
nothing
vegan?
better than a hot dog at a baseball game, right?
This is true.
Come on.
Jeff, who likes baseball? You are such a boomer.
I love baseball. I watched like 100 Cleveland Indians games last year. Not last year because they didn't play games last year, but the year before that.
So this is an interesting story from BBC, and it was pigs can play video games with their snouts, scientists find. The headline's kind of self-explanatory, but the researchers found that the pigs understood the connection between the joystick and the game, and that was no small feat, and that the pigs even continued playing when the food reward dispenser broke. And so apparently they really love gaming. And they would be given a food pellet for winning a game level.
Let's just be clear. Let's just be clear what the game level was. This wasn't a level. It was like, move this dot into the wall.
Yes.
But still,
well,
yes,
I mean,
they registered the movement of the joystick. But just for the listeners,
also,
it's not like Mario. They're getting through level 1.
Let's also be clear. I want to be the person writing that grant proposal. Like, again, like some of these things that get money, I just want to be the person like, I have an idea. I am going to give a pig a video game. It's just like
there will be no physical harm for the pigs.
That's right. There's like
Victoria,
a whole
will you
ethics
stop
committee
eating
you have to
hot
go
dogs
through.
now that you know that pigs are gamers?
No, I won't. Sorry. Lindsay has me on Instagram, and it's funny because it's not funny. It's ironic that I am like the biggest meat eater, and I believe Lindsay's vegan. So we have quite a funny relationship on Instagram. So
there's no way Lindsay can be vegan because she's never told us yet. So that would be impossible.
I'm veganish. But anyways,
I said, there's no way she's really vegan. If she was, we would know about it.
That's silly. I live without cheese like 5 out of 7 days of the week and call it a win. Anyways,
Lindsay, talk to me about pigs in video games. Will we see animal esports the same way we see a puppy bowl before the Super Bowl?
Yes. Also, let's back it up because this enrages me. Pigs are very smart. Also, lots of other animals are very smart. I am not at all surprised that pigs are capable of playing video games, and neither should anyone who is reading or writing this article. Okay? So yes, I certainly hope that we see pigs playing video games. That is something I would absolutely watch.
I love anyone tuning into the live stream just now for the hardcore esports business analysis. William, come on. I know you have feelings on pigs and gamers. Did you underestimate your numbers? Because you wrote a great article about how the whole Newzoo $1 billion thing was totally bogus. I'm very proud of that article. I didn't just write it; a bunch of people researched it with me, but it was a very, very good article. Yeah, incredible article. Everyone should go read it. But did you underestimate now that you know pigs are also gaming? And it's a serious question, the Paul, pig population? Proudly, I can say that pigs do not use currency or have disposable income. And so regardless of their passion for gaming, I do think we correctly stated that market because their net value, their net expenditure will still be a zero. Now, when there is piggy coin and you went there.
We're ignoring the fact that pigs regularly sell their bodies for money. There's something there.
This is getting
all right.
weird.
This is a rabbit hole we've got
off the rails. Okay.
I would just like to add before we move on with this pig story. I'm gonna be the party pooper here. This is just classical conditioning. We're going into Ivan Pavlov territory. If what would impress me more if they put the game in their pen and for fun, like leisure, they were like trotting over and like playing the game on their own time, I'd be blown away. Maybe I wouldn't have a hot dog for like 3 months, but this is just like move your snout for a pellet. Like, sorry, I'm not trying to dampen it. This is not playing video games. Right? This is here's food, hit your nose against this. Sorry, it doesn't work for me.
I mean, if it was Dark Souls, we'd be impressed, but it seems to just be some Pavlovian.
This pig no-hit runs Dark Souls 3 for a food pellet.
Regularly play games without rewards. I'm not even kidding. There's actually a really good, this is completely random, but there's a rat study from the 70s that looks at addiction and how that works. And in the study, they have 2 groups of rats, and one is given like all this stuff to do and play with, and they all play with it and do the stuff despite getting no reward for doing so.
I mean, just to be clear, I mean, pigs' number one like activity, as they're known to do, is literally roll in their own shit. So I don't know that we should be talking this up as like the pigs are smart.
That sunburns and the mud protects it. They are smart.
Lindsay, why do you know so much about pigs?
Guys, this is a rabbit hole. Let's move on.
I won't eat a rat. I won't eat a rat for 3 months.
Let's talk about potential lawsuits in the gaming industry. That's not Epic and Apple for once. And this is related to Sony. So this article here is from Business Insider. And it says, the headline here, a gaming accessories company is defiantly selling matte black PS5 covers, telling Sony to go ahead, sue us. The company in question here is a company called D-Brand. I'm sure people listening have maybe used the company or bought products from the company. They make skins for phones, like skins like this, right? That you can put on your phone. This is actually a D-Brand skin. But now what they're producing, what D-Brand has gone out and made, is an actual plastic replacement cover for the PlayStation 5 that is matte black as opposed to the PlayStation 5's white cover. Supposedly Sony sued over a similar product last year, but D-Brand's marketing has literally teased them to go ahead and sue them. And this cover has already sold out multiple times over. I'm curious what you guys think in terms of, does D-Brand in this case have a leg to stand on? I know none of us are lawyers, but, Victoria, let me start with you. What do you think of the marketing ploy here to actually taunt Sony into suing them?
It's pretty bold. That's for sure. I mean, I know that the demand is there. I keep seeing so many videos of people spray painting their PS5s, and they actually turn out pretty good. So I know people want this. So I don't like you said, we're not lawyers. I don't really know what the play is here. I mean, are they just hoping that they can just be so profitable with these skins that it's going to outweigh the threat of being sued? Probably not. So not really sure. Maybe they've just designed it in a way where they've protected themselves. Maybe they just looked into the case that happened last year and made sure they avoided, found some loopholes through that.
William, you were gonna chime in.
I don't want to speculate on it other than just like as a marketing thing. I mean, it's getting us to talk about it, right?
That's true.
It's true. I don't think we'd be talking about like third-party provider makes matte black case. We'd be like this would not be on this segment. It's the fact is like it's probably a little bit calculated as a marketing claim. And I think that's most of this, right? Would be my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That was my
take
as
just
well.
Marketing stunt.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's smart marketing. I don't see, again, none of us are lawyers, but I don't see how Sony could sue them, for selling a case. Like plenty of, people sell iPhone cases that aren't Apple, and they don't get sued. So,
well, to be clear, it's not a case and it's not a skin. It's the actual panel that attaches to the sides of the PS5. They are making an identical copy of that panel in black. Right, so they have a mold somewhere that is pressing a plastic, piece of covering that is identical essentially to the to the plastic covering that comes with the Xbox originally, or the
this could
PlayStation
even
original.
this could even be a ploy, and maybe they're trying to get Sony's attention and say, hey, look, a lot of people want this thing in black. You market our product, basically put us on your store, take 50% of the profits or whatever, but look how much distribution we could get. They're maybe dangling the bait. I don't know where my hand is.
But Sony wouldn't do that. Sony wouldn't do that. They would just
so
crush
then they're not
them
going to
and
get
take all
sued.
the profits. Well, I mean, yeah, of course it's a marketing stunt by saying come and sue us, but at the same time, by creating that noise, Sony's going to find out about it, right? They could have sold a bunch of units like undercover and made a lot of money and just hoped to get away with it. But by having this huge marketing ploy here, bringing the attention, they're probably going to get shut down unless they've come up with some sort of, like I said, some loophole where they're protected the way that I don't know the design. But I mean, I don't think there's a win here for them. I guess we'll see, but I don't understand how they'd be, when you talk about like, well, iPhone cases can get sold, like ones at like kiosks. Yeah, because it's probably not worth their time to sue them, or like it's just not realistic for them to go out and find, all those cases to go after.
Yeah, I can't see a single scenario in which Sony would take the time and expenditure to actually sue. But what I can see, if this is successful enough, Sony will just start making black ones and outdo them anyway. So drawing attention to it was foolish.
I mean, they've sold a lot in the meantime.
Yeah, it wouldn't be successful if they didn't do it. Sort of that it got 22.
You guys, do any of you have PS5s? I'm curious. Anyone watching or in the cast here, or anyone
Just
listening?
me.
Would you buy this, Victoria? Like, were you so dissatisfied? Like, I never thought that the look of the PS5 was the issue, right? Like I didn't think it was ugly. I've seen uglier console designs. And I never thought that this would have such sort of significant demand.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't buy this. I'm someone like I like to stick to brand. I'm a bit of a brand whore in that sense. Like if PS5 came out with a black version, I would really want that black version of the PS5. If they sold these panels, maybe, probably not. It's not as important to me. But I don't think I would buy add-ons for the PS5 itself. I don't know. Even if it was a peripherals company where I had the headset and other things as well, I still don't think I'd buy an off-brand panel for the PS5. I don't know why though. I can't give you a great reason. I just feel like it would just tarnish the beauty of my PS5, the pureness.
I will say dbrand is a Canadian company, and their products are very good though. I almost all my phones are covered with dbrand skin. So let's move on, guys. Let's talk about this is the didn't we have a segment? This is hold on. There was this is the Jeff comments on something he knows a lot about segment.
Yes.
and this is Esports Entertainment Group in the news this week, announcing a closing of $30 million registered direct offering priced at $15 a share. Jeff, tell us what this all means, other than you guys having a ton of cash now.
I'm listening because I thought it was going to be a thing where I could go on a rant and it was going to be fun, but this is a little more serious. Yeah, I mean, so our stock in the last week had a pretty big run. So we sold 2 million shares at $15 a share, raised $30 million. The use of proceeds really is going to be to close an acquisition that we had previously announced. So that's really that. I mean, it's great to have new institutional shareholders. I think it's a great testament to shows that there's significant support at these higher levels. So obviously it's great for anyone who bought stock lower. It's an exciting thing for our company. And yeah, that's kind of that. I was hoping I was going to get to go on a rant. That was a lot less fun.
No, I will say, like, the sort of the enthusiasm around the stock has continued. You guys announced, we talk a lot about the earnings calls of like Activision Blizzard and EA and all these things. I mean, you guys had your earnings call yesterday, yesterday after market close. Like it was all very, very positive, and the stock responded extremely positively. So I think the market was very happy with this deal. Was the was the sense I got. I don't know if you had a different thought there.
Yeah, no, it was nice to see the follow through and have the stock be trading, nicely above that $15 price where we closed the deal. It's funny. I had a shareholder text me this morning, and he was like, "Man, following the news throughout the quarter, you don't really realize how much you guys have done." And kind of just reading the press release and hearing the earnings call, he's like, "You guys did a ton in the last 3 months." And I kind of took a step back and was like, wow, we really did do a ton in the last 3 months. So I think there's a lot for us to be proud of as a company. And clearly, we're at like inning 0 of this journey, to use the tortured baseball analogy. But it's definitely exciting times.
I'm going to take a lot of the credit here, and I'm going to point to one tweet, which I just think is Lindsay. Why am I getting that look?
I'm going to take a lot of the credit. I'm going to point.
Only one tweet here. This is from Patrick. Step 1, listen to Biz Esports podcast. I like step 1. Step 2, understand Paul Dawalibi's very knowledgeable on subject matter. Step 3, do independent research on GMBL as an investment opportunity. Step 4, invest. Step 5, watch underappreciated asset go to the moon here. Step 6, take some profits, let rest ride. I mean, does this not summarize everything anyone who listens, watches needs to know here? I mean, I don't know. To me, it's just so obvious. All right, guys, let's we got I think one more story here. I wanted to, maybe two quick stories here that I wanted to cover. This one, I think, really interesting. Again, one of these under the radar kind of stories. And it was from PCMag.com. It says, your game development career is just a $45 Unity training bundle away. And basically, this is an education package. It's the what they call the premium Unity game developer certification bundle. And it teaches you how to craft your own 2D, 3D, augmented reality game and how to monetize it. And it's 146 hours of training provided by Unity for $45. Now, obviously, I'm not selling this package. That's not why I want to have this conversation. Is this, like, I think this is completely brilliant. And I'm curious if you guys feel the same way in terms of getting more and more developers onto the platform, making everyone believe they can, make their own game. And has anyone seen this from any of the other platforms or engines? I'm curious what everyone's thoughts are. Jeff, or Victoria, you were shaking.
I just had a quick question, and sorry to backtrack, but what are the software requirements for the package? Does it say?
I mean, to build.
Whoa, an interested taker have we here?
I mean, to build anything.
Just curious, because there'd be some investment, I'm assuming, unless you're fully set up already.
Yeah, right. If you want to do heavy duty 3D modeling and things like that, but I don't think if you're building a relatively simple game, I don't think you would need to go spend thousands and thousands. The article doesn't say what those requirements are, but okay. I assume a PC of some, recent or relatively, recent vintage. Jeff, you were going to say something.
I think it's just genius, on the part of Unity, and it goes, they're not the first to kind of think of stuff like this. I'm certain Adobe, Photoshop has done similar things and giving away, classes or having, I'm sure they're not looking to make money on this class. It's really just to deepen their network effect, get people in the, inside their network, inside their circle. So those people then go work at developers. They start using Unity because it's what they know, it's what they're comfortable with. Boom, they start, getting money from the developers. They build the games on Unity to get the aftermarket spend or whatever. I forget what they call it. Money as the game is continuing to make money. I think it's very smart by Unity to kind of deepen their network effect. I wonder if Epic is going to kind of do something similar.
William, you wanted to chime in on this.
Well, it's like weird because, and this sort of goes actually back to what we were talking about on the podcast about the rise of indie games, right? Because you can go get like cheap online courses. They're pretty high quality for lots of things. Like, that are technical. Let me give you an example. Photoshop, right? Like, there are plenty of very good training courses you can get online for like $20 for Photoshop, and you will learn a lot, right? And you will actually leave it pretty darn good at Photoshop. And the same holds true for many things. The reality is game development has gotten a lot easier today. The engines are really good. They really empower creators because the whole goal of the engine is to get you creating the game, right? Like, they don't want you to be stuck on like light source. Like, they want to make all of it as dynamic and, behind the scenes as possible so that you as the game creator can use the engine for what it's intended to, which is a platform to make your games. And so I'm a bit like, I'm so more stunned you don't see more of this, just because like this is just like you're not surprised to see a Photoshop course or a photography course. I don't think you should be surprised to see like a starter games development course because it's getting a lot easier today. You can do it if you put in the time. And there's tons of examples. Like, the cultural touch point that's going on right now is the guy who had never made a game before in his life, literally had no experience, decided he wanted to make a fan mod for Avatar Airbender, and gave himself 365 days after work or something to do it. And like, you can follow this guy. It's pretty incredible what he's building, just playing around in the engine with like zero experience. His only knowledge is he likes Avatar and he wants to make a cool like Avatar clone game. And it's fun, So I think that the real thing here is, I'm not saying it's easy to make games. It's not. But the barrier to start making them has become quite low today, right? Quite low. And so people should take heed of that and say, if you have an interest in making games, it's not like this titanic task anymore. It is difficult. But there are ways to start and you can begin. It's so much more accessible than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think I position this in my head sort of back to back against the discussion or the article we saw last week around Epic and their MetaHuman announcement, right? And that's big and it's splashy and it's super high tech, right? And just from a business standpoint, I think this sort of like really boring under the radar announcement of a $45 like bundle to educate you on how to build your own game with Unity engine, in some ways as a driver of adoption of your engine and therefore a driver of revenue and success as a platform, this is probably in my mind more effective than the big splashy MetaHuman announcement, right? Like, from a business standpoint, I love the Unity move here on an education front almost more than I love the MetaHuman announcement. Do any of you feel differently on that?
Well, I mean, I 100% agree. At the end of the day, Unity is really an enterprise software company, whereas Epic I would describe as a gaming company / also sort of the, how do I say this delicately? It's run by a guy, egocentric billionaire who has his own agenda, who's trying to create some fantasy vision of the world in the future. Whereas Unity is run as a public company for profit as an enterprise software company. So yes, I think you're absolutely right.
Lindsay, did you have thoughts on that? In terms of like one versus the other, effectiveness from even just a public hype perspective, like the MetaHuman thing got a lot of hype. This I didn't hear anyone talking about. But did you feel one was more effective than the other in terms of driving business for that specific company?
Ooh, in terms of driving business, I would guess that the MetaHuman is more effective, but in terms of maybe like long term, I would think that the focus on education would be more effective. We'll see if that actually plays out, but I certainly hope that people take advantage of this because I have a feeling it won't stay at $45 forever, depending on how well it gets adopted. And it's a really, really cool idea. So maybe in the short term, MetaHuman's better, but hopefully, I hope in the long term that this is more successful.
Small like thought for me on this too is like the MetaHuman thing, while they had a demo, I couldn't actually go and use their MetaHuman engine to create the virtual me. Like you get me all excited about the announcement, but then I can't actually go use it. I hate that. Like I hate like announcements of vaporware. That bugs the hell out of me. and I understand why companies do it, but like as a user, if you're getting me excited about something, I want to try it. I don't want to try it 6 months from now, right? Whereas the Unity thing, like you can sign up and pay your $45 and you have it right away, right? The announcement was in line with when you could actually use the product. It's a small thing, but I think that it does affect perception and sort of how people think about those companies. Jeff, you were going to say something.
I was just going to say, I bet Lindsay, it sounded like you were saying the price was going to go up. I would actually guess the opposite. I bet if this gets widely adopted, they'll make it free. If it starts really getting people onto the platform. And, the question I was going to kind of pose to the group is, how much do you think this is an offensive move versus a defensive move versus platforms like Roblox and Minecraft, which have obviously been had massive success democratizing, create game creation. How much is this Unity saying, holy crap, we're going to get our lunch eaten by Roblox if we don't do this?
It's a smart point. Victoria, William, what do you guys think on that? Is this offensive or defensive?
I mean, offensive, right? Like I don't really understand the distinction though. Like, aren't they
defensive? In other words, are they looking at Roblox going, we're scared of Roblox, we have to do something? Or is it offensive in the sense that we don't care what anyone else is doing, we're just trying to grow our platform?
I don't think they're looking at Roblox and this is a competitive response to them. I think or if it is, it's like, hey, we're easy to use too. We should make a bigger deal out of it. You know what I mean? But I think this is very much like a pride in their own product and an attempt to emphasize what I was saying earlier, which is I don't think people realize that it can be a lot easier to start making games today than you think. Just because you don't have 100 people in a studio to make a Call of Duty doesn't mean you can't make a great product. Again, look at Hollow Knight. Like 2 people made that game. I'm speechless, like.
Do we need to do the Prophet and Professor William co-op side scroller then? Should I get this package and learn how to build our own game here?
Oh, we're already doing it. It's like happening. It's like that's oh my gosh, Paul, we have to do that. Our own like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World style beat 'em up game. Like yeah, like hey Paul, somebody took our podcast. Don't worry, we'll get it back. It would be so awesome.
All right, guys. Let's finish with our usual here. Let's as always, what are we playing this week? Lindsay, I know you got a new gaming machine. You got a new gaming rig. You're using it all the time, right?
Yeah, constantly. No,
I asked Lindsay for a photo of the gaming rig. It was like tucked in the background.
As it should be.
I could not make out any details.
No, so my husband, he took the plunge and bought a whole computer, made a whole rig, got a 3070 somehow. He wanted a 3080, but he could not get his hands on it, so he settled. But yeah, it was up and running this week. He had an ace in Valorant. He had 21 kills and 5,000 damage on Apex this morning. So he is quickly picking things up.
And he's never played PC games?
He played a little bit when he was younger. Like he played like RuneScape and World of Warcraft and stuff. But no, he's never really played shooters on the PC. So
cool.
But yeah,
I love hearing this.
Yeah, he was good on console. So he wasn't Paul on consoles, but
I mean, let's face it. There's few people like me as good as me. Like, come on.
It took him 3 days to get a hold of the mechanics, but he's loving it. He's playing Cyberpunk as we speak. So
interesting that he's playing Cyberpunk. I'd be curious to get his review at some point.
He just, when he gets bored with one, just jumps ship to the other and cycles back through. But I've actually been playing a lot of the Switch, so that was a good purchase. A lot of Mario Kart, played a lot of Mario Party with family this weekend, and it's been fun.
I love it. I'm gonna talk to Kevin. I'm gonna have to get him to he's not gonna want to share at this point. That's the problem. But if I can convince him to get you on the PC, that would be a win. But if I was him, I wouldn't want to be sharing at this point.
Like the Barbie dress-up games I played when I was 7, and then I'd get back on it.
You probably could find them. They're probably on Good Old Games, right? you may be able to find some of those old games. So
He said he would be happy to jump on a Valorant game with you and William.
William is going to carry us all.
I'm good. Like, I'm good. I don't know what to tell you. I've had multiple games with more kills than deaths. So get on my back.
Jeff, what have you been playing?
I did actually manage to sneak in 2 games of Madden with one of my good buddies online over the weekend while my wife and my kid were asleep. But I don't like this segment. You should ask me like a different question. I feel like I never have a good answer.
Figure out.
We need a custom
you got
segment.
Your own segment. You're absolved from answering this one.
I don't know. I don't really have one.
What if you tell us about what kind of hot chocolate you're drinking every week?
That's true. I could do that or something creative like that.
William, what were you? Did you play Valorant this week?
I played it's going to sound like I did a lot of gaming this week. I really didn't, but I did play a variety of games. I played the new Super Mario Brothers, right? Like the Switch release, because I'm going to play Mario. I love Mario, right? So
I saw
played
some people streaming it. Seems like Mario.
It's just the Wii U game again. I just didn't play it on the Wii U, and I like it. You like jump on things, you get power ups. You know what the power ups are. You know what they do. There's a fire flower, big surprise. Like, I mean, come on, but it's Mario, so like you have fun, and it's and to be fair, like the levels are well designed and they're short. Like why I like it is to 100% a level takes 5 minutes. Like 100%. That's getting all 3 hidden stars and gold checkpointing the flag. So like you can have 5 minute, like literally I can be like, oh, I have 5 minutes before I've got to go pick up my kids. Okay, here I go. So I've been playing that. I played Valorant, obviously. A lot of Valorant. It's been sort of my main game. And then I played a little bit of Neo 2, which is an older release. But I've been meaning to play it because I really like the original Neo, and I started a little bit of it and had a lot of fun.
What is this even? I don't even think I've heard of this.
Oh, it's like a Soulsborne game from Team Ninja. The original Neo was like a fairly big kind of cult hit. It's like Samurai Dark Souls, basically. It's a little better than that. It has more of an RPG, like a more of a fully fledged RPG system. But it's just like I like those games. I always play them, and I kind of grind them out over the course of a year. And I'll probably do the same with this one.
Very cool. Victoria, what were you playing this week?
I'm still playing a lot of Cold War. Interesting though. So my partner, he's not a big gamer, and I'm trying to get him into gaming with me. So we started playing some split screen for Call of Duty, and there's a massive glitch in Cold War that there's tons of blogs about it, but they just haven't addressed it yet. So when you play split screen multiplayer, there's this glitch where players on both teams, there'll be like 2 or 3 players who are completely invisible except for their gun.
Interesting.
So it's complete, but it's to a point where it's unplayable. The map gets all messed up, walls disappear, it's super glitchy, the graphics are poor. And they just say, all I can find online is that you need to restart the system completely. And that, anyways, Activision's been told about it, and they haven't done anything about it.
You don't think you can get him into gaming in a bigger way?
What do you mean?
You don't think you can get your partner into gaming in a bigger way?
Oh no, I will be able to. We're taking baby steps.
So
next game was we started playing Fortnite, and I hadn't played Fortnite in 3 years. And it was awesome because I was just so lost, right? Like there's so many items. Like I get like a pepper. I'm like, what the hell is this? So obviously I pick it up and I eat it, and all of a sudden my ears are fuming and I can run really fast across the map. And 3 years ago, it was just like I knew all of the items, and now it's just there's so much going on. There's people fishing. It's ridiculous, but we had a lot of fun.
That's good. That's good. I like it. Even though I'm not a big fan of Fortnite.
Who is anymore?
And also, for those of you who are still watching, would love to know what you guys are playing this week. I will say I played Valheim on the weekend, much to William's dismay. Even though you are invited, I will say it has been a ton of fun. This is I think it's a special game. What they've accomplished in and I was talking about this on the podcast, the whole game fits into 1 gigabyte. First of all, that's unheard of these days in a world where Call of Duty is 100 gigs. And and it's just the game is so deep, the building is so deep, there's so much content, the world is procedurally generated and it's massive. Like even with thousands of hours, you probably can only discover 20-25% of the whole map. I'm lucky because the server I play on is a bunch of guys who just grind it out like 18 hours a day, so I have all the best gear and all the best stuff. I will bring this up. I will say, look, how cool is this that I did on the weekend? In Valheim, I built my own recreation of Stonehenge. Even though it is a Viking themed game, you guys can see my Stonehenge recreation here, to scale, of course, and with all the accurate positionings of the stones. But it is truly a fun game. I think Valheim has real legs, and I would love to see a AAA publisher sort of take a crack at this genre in a really serious way, because like I said, I see lots of legs for Valheim. Martin says Hades, chess, and Valorant as usual. Martin, try Valheim. I think you
Hades.
really like
I love Hades. Such good taste.
And first of all, and second of all, I would say, Martin, what is your rating in chess getting better? Is your FID rating climbing after all this chess? On that note, guys, that wraps up this week. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, William. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you guys for listening and staying till the end. Thank you for participating. Stay tuned tomorrow for the podcast. It's a good episode. Me and William talking about a bunch of fun things. Keep an eye out for my Esports Minute next week. And go follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube if you haven't already. Martin says he's at 11:50. Martin, that's quite good. And tell people about this live stream. We do it every Wednesday evening, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you're new here, if you're lurking, come back, participate. Also, as always, just a reminder, this Friday, we're doing the same Clubhouse Future of Fun Fridays, 3 p.m. Eastern time. I would say that is even more relaxed than this live stream. So come hang out at 3 o'clock on Clubhouse if you're on there.
It's so fun. There's always some characters.
There's always some characters in the room.
It's not just me throwing out stupid pig facts.
There are some last time there were some characters.
So come hang out. We get to talk, one-on-one and actually hear each other and not just be reading chat, which is always fun. As always, thank you guys. Tune into all those things, and we will see you guys next week.